and Workers' Rights for All Alberta. This year, it is with a heavy heart that the recipient, that the award will be given to a brother who is no longer with us. At our last Executive Council meeting, members of our council unanimously voted to give this year's award to Brother Albert Johnson, past president of United Food and Commercial Workers 1118, who passed away unexpectedly in October. Albert was a friend. He was a principal trade unionist who made a huge impact on the lives of Albert was a principal trade unionist who made a huge impact on his union, for his members, and on the broader labor movement. I'm so glad that his family could join us today. Before we call up the current president of UFCW 1118, Peter Frost, to say a few words about Albert, I just want to introduce his family members, Albert's family members who have joined us today for the convention. Would you please stand to be recognized? Albert's mother, Jean Johnson, is here. Albert's sister, Terry Davidson, is here. Albert's other sister, Nancy Hughes, is here. His stepson, Devin Ziri. Grandson Zachary Ziri. Sister-in-law Erin Upton. Albert's brother Doug Johnson. Albert's son Ryan Johnson. And Albert's wife Tammy Johnson. Join me in welcoming Peter Frost, President of United Food and Commercial Workers 1118.
I would first like to take the opportunity to thank Gail, Siobhan, and the Executive Board for giving me the opportunity to speak about a brother It's an honor to say a few words about a great labor activist, a colleague, a mentor, a friend. I want to assure you that Brother Johnson's spirit is with us today, and I know this because Albert and I have different styles. I was his yin to his yang, vice versa. And I went in the office this morning and I wrote an elegant speech. Nothing, Albert would never do that. When I went to print it off, the printer broke down. I know he's here. Albert was the longest serving president of a UFCW local in the history of UFCW. He became the president in 1986 at the young age of 24 years old. Albert not only talked the talk, he walked the walk. Albert was committed to the labor movement all the time. And if you don't believe me, ask staff. They got phone calls at 5 in the morning, to 10 at night, to 11 at night. Vacations. I would tell Albert, don't call me, you are on vacation. You need time. One day would go by, 2 days would go by, never more than 3 days. Albert's contacted me, I need to know what's going on with our local. Albert consistently said that this isn't a job, It's a belief. And you don't put your beliefs on the shelf at a certain time at night. Your beliefs are your beliefs. Under Albert, and listen, that's what, it's Albert. That's what we all call him, Albert, right? Albert grew a local of 400 people to more than 5,000 people. Under Albert's leadership, we had major labor disputes and major accomplishments in those labor disputes. In his first year as president, we had a 6-week labor dispute at Fletcher's Fine Foods, where 75% of those members achieved a $5 an hour increase over the term of the agreement. Only to go back to bargaining in 1988, and while we're sitting there bargaining, the employer says, we need to stop, we have to have a press conference. And during that press conference, they announced the Alberta Conservatives had given them a loan guarantee of $110 million. The employer then decided to lock out the Canadian employees in Red Deer, Alberta, and move that work to the United States. That's what they did with the money from the Conservative government. Please remember that on May 5th. So, not 1 month later, not 2 months later, but 8 months later, that membership was locked out, but under Albert's leadership, remained strong and went back to work, not accepting one concession, but wage increases. That's what happened. UFCW Local 1118 under Albert's leadership were the first ones to take on the mandatory 5% rollback of the Klein government at the Central Park Lodge in Medicine Hat. And again, no concessions but wage increases when that dispute ended. UFCW Local 1118 has an 87% success rate in arbitration in the province of Alberta. The most recent arbitration award put $1.3 million in our members' pockets at Cargill Case Bank. That happened under Albert's. Temporary foreign workers. I don't disagree with anything Gil has said. And me and Albert had spirited discussions in regards to the plans that we should do in regards to the temporary foreign worker program. But Albert said this, they have a vested interest. We have to do whatever we can to ensure that we look after those workers, they're our members, and then went and bargained such things as mandatory sponsorship by the employer for all temporary foreign workers. English is a second language for temporary foreign workers that was provided by UFCW Local 1118 members. And all now, about 95% of all temporary foreign workers that are members of UFCW Local 1118 and are greeted when they get off the plane by a representative of UFCW Local 1118. Albert ensured that there was a pathway to citizenship. Albert wasn't in favor of the temporary foreign worker program. Albert tried to do the best for a bad immigration system that wasn't an immigration system. And we're very happy to announce there are thousands of of temporary foreign workers that were UFCW members or are UFCW members that now have permanent residency, that have their family with them, and are enjoying the luxuries of being a Canadian citizen. At Aldington, no member, no temporary foreign worker even sees the plant until the union has an opportunity to provide training and assist them in becoming citizens or a part of our society for the first 2 weeks. We get them for the first 2 weeks, and that's very beneficial. And they are, for the first 2 weeks, they are at our training center in Red Deer. And for those that don't know, and Albert's family doesn't know, many people don't know, that training center is now called the Albert Johnson Memorial Training Center. Again, Albert's accomplishments, I believe, were because of the commitment that he showed, and it is an honor to speak about Albert today. But if we truly want to honor Albert's memory, then I would urge you to talk to the people in your stores, your neighbors. We have an opportunity on May 5th to make a dramatic change politically that Mr. Johnson, Albert, wanted as long as I ever knew him. And I'll give you, I'm actually embarrassed to tell this story, but I think that Albert also was insightful in recruitment of labor activists. Albert recruited me. I don't want to sound boastful, and I think by the end of the story I'll be able to get around that. But Albert came to me and said, listen, Peter, I'd like you to play a role in our union. Do you know what I told him? I would like to, Albert, but you guys backed that communist party. Those New Democrats were Bolsheviks, so I couldn't do it. And if you knew Albert, usually he would just steer you on the right path. He didn't. And I've often wondered afterwards, why didn't he, at that point, try to set me straight? What he ended up doing is convincing me to go to an educational. And I think he thought, once I get him to sip the Kool-Aid, I got it. And just so that you know, it's not boastful, Albert was also crucial in the recruitment of Brother Paul Menema, who happens to be the UFCW national president. So, I'd like to thank you for this opportunity. I thought, I guess as I mature, although somebody told me I was looking good this morning, which tells me what category I'm in. No, I lost my train of thought. Thanks for the opportunity to speak a few words about Brother Johnson, but again, if you really want to show a tribute to Mr. Johnson, follow in his footsteps. Your beliefs are not put on a shelf. You address them every day to whoever will listen to you. Thank you.
One of the great things about Albert is the way he surrounded himself with great people. That's UFCW 1118 is an incredible local, has done incredible work. But he was also surrounded by many other great people in his private life. Loving family, supportive friends. At his funeral in October, it was attended by well over 600 people. I think that's a testament to the man, not just as a union leader, but as a human being. At this point, I'd like to invite up two people who were perhaps closest to him. In fact, I know they're closest to him. His wife, Tammy Johnson, and his son, Ryan.
Thank you. We're very honored to be up here today to accept this award on Albert's behalf. We are a little nervous. We are not used to being up on stage. Albert, on the other hand, after 28 years of presidency, was used to being up on stage, on the camera, and sitting at the tables. I had to write down all his titles because I knew if I didn't, I would miss more than a few. He was the president of UFCW, Local 1118. He was a full-time business agent, trustee and member of the UFCW Administration Committee of the National Defense Fund, vice president of the UFCW Canada National Council, member of the UFCW International Advisory Board. He was an educator and chief negotiator for 15 different contracts, which was not unusual to be negotiating several at once. And no matter how many irons he had in the fire, he always had time for the member, because that's what it was about. It was not about titles or tables. It was about workers being treated fairly, with dignity and respect. And when they needed him and reached out, he was always there. Albert will be forever known with his groundbreaking work with the Temporary Foreign Worker Program. He did not do it for that reason. He did it because he knows it is a terrible program which exploits workers that we bring into our country. And though he cannot change the program, he could change the contract, and that's what he did. Albert believed a worker was a worker was a worker. They deserve the same respect and dignity as any worker in Canada. You can imagine, with all the positions he held, came many emotions. And I'll just be frank, some nights he came home just pissed right off. The day the sister called, she was crying because she was facing sexual harassment at work. She couldn't quit her job, she had a family to take care of, and management just didn't care. That made Albert mad. It made him mad the day the brother phoned, and his boss was in a mood and had simply fired him. And that brother and his family would suffer. And if you really wanted to see Albert mad, be there the day the company was sending the members to the streets because they didn't want to pay fair wages. They didn't want to give them the dignity and respect they deserved. Those days made Albert mad. But whenever a member needed Albert, he always went, but he never went alone. Albert always took the full force of the union with him. And that made for some pretty good days. It was a good day. The sister was no longer crying. She had a smile on her face, her head was held high, and she was going to work today. No harassment, no abuse. Management may not have cared. Albert did. It was a good day when the brother not only got his job back, he got his job back with full back pay, full seniority, and all discipline off his record, and that brother and his family. And it was always a really good day, a day for celebration, when the members had held the line and had told the company, no, we will not take this abuse.